In a quiet town where the days moved slow and the nights were calm, three lives crossed paths in a way that would ignite a storm no one could escape. What began as stolen glances and whispered promises soon rotted into jealousy and betrayal. Passions burned hotter than reason, and trust crumbled under the weight of secrets. Then, one cold morning, the peace shattered with the crack of a gunshot. Then a single heartbeat, a neighbor lay dying on the sidewalk, and the truth spilled into the open for all to see. This is not just the story of a killing. It's the story of how desire, when poisoned by obsession, can turn love into a weapon and leave an entire community haunted forever. This is True Crimes Altar, where every sin is punished, every betrayal has a cost, and every soul must answer to the truth. Subscribe, share, and comment below. Tell us where you're watching from, because these are stories the guilty hoped would stay buried. At the center of this tragedy were three people whose lives would become tightly bound together. Malik Drayton, a 19-year-old whose charm was as magnetic as it was dangerous. Serena Holt, a neglected wife searching for the passion she'd lost. And Tanya Merrick, a recent divorcee determined to reclaim the pieces of herself. Their choices would lead to a shocking act of violence that would forever change the face of Briarwood and force its residents to question how well they truly knew their neighbors. Malik's confidence and maturity seemed far beyond his years. At 6 feet tall, with a warm smile and easy laugh, he drew attention wherever he went. But it wasn't just his looks. Malik had an instinct for reading people, for understanding their needs and desires, sometimes before they even spoke them. Raised by a single mother who worked long shifts as a nurse, Malik had learned self-reliance early. Those skills served him well at his part-time job in a cozy coffee shop, where he quickly became a favorite among regulars. A month after graduating high school, Malik moved to Briarwood, staying with an old friend of his mother's while figuring out his next steps. College was a vague plan for the future, but for now, he was content to work and savor his new independence. His arrival didn't go unnoticed. Women of all ages found reasons to stop by the coffee shop during his shifts, while men offered polite nods tinged with a quiet envy. Malik took it all in stride, his dimpled grin making every interaction feel personal. But it was his encounters with the people living closest to him that set events into motion no one could have foreseen. On one side of the house where he was staying lived the Holts, an outwardly perfect couple whose marriage was quietly cracking. On the other side was Tanya Merrick, a woman in her early 40s rebuilding her life after a bitter divorce. Malik first met Serena Holt on a warm Saturday morning while mowing the lawn. She crossed over with a plate of homemade cookies, her smile gracious but her eyes lingering a moment too long. Neither realized that this small gesture would be the first step down a dangerous path. Serena seemed to have everything: a respected husband, a beautiful home, and the admiration of her peers. But behind closed doors, the life she lived was hollow. 15 years into her marriage to Dr. Leonard Holt, a successful surgeon, Serena had watched the passion fade until all that remained were polite conversations and empty routines. Once vibrant and ambitious, she had dreamed of becoming an acclaimed artist, but as Leonard's career soared, her own aspirations were pushed aside. Her paintings gathered dust in a dim corner of the basement. The first time Serena saw Malik, something stirred within her. His youthful energy and the way he genuinely listened awakened feelings she thought had long since died. She began making excuses to be outside when he was around, choosing her outfits more carefully, rediscovering her makeup. Their exchanges started innocently, baked goods, gardening tips, but she lingered longer each time. Malik, in turn, asked about her art and praised her talent until she felt her passion returning. One evening, while Leonard worked late, Serena invited Malik over to see her paintings. In the dim light of the basement, surrounded by canvases that told the story of her faded dreams, Malik's hand brushed hers. A spark leapt between them, electric and dangerous. She turned toward him, heart pounding, and his eyes searched hers, silently asking a question she already knew the answer to. She leaned in, and their lips met. In that kiss, Serena stepped willingly across a threshold from which there was no return. Every sin begins as a whisper, a fleeting thought, until the moment you answer it, and it swallows the part of you that once knew right from wrong. Tanya Merrick was 42, starting over after 20 years of marriage to a man who had eroded her confidence piece by piece. Her divorce had been final just 3 months before Malik moved in next door, leaving her raw and uncertain. Once outgoing and sure of herself, years of manipulation had left her doubting everything from her wardrobe to her work as a freelance graphic designer. Financially strained, she had downsized to a modest house in Briarwood. Malik first met Tanya on a rainy afternoon as she struggled with grocery bags in the driveway. Without hesitation, he rushed to help, his easy smile making her feel noticed for the first time in years. They spoke as he carried the bags inside, and Tanya found herself sharing more than she intended about her divorce, her fears, her hope to rebuild. Malik listened, offering encouragement without judgment. His optimism was contagious, and before he left, he suggested they have coffee sometime. In the days that followed, Tanya looked forward to their casual encounters. She began timing her evening walks to coincide with his return from work, savoring their brief conversations. Malik showed interest in her design work and even offered to help her create a website to draw more clients. His faith in her abilities reignited her passion, and she began taking on new projects. One night, as they shared a bottle of wine on her porch, their laughter softened into a charged silence. Malik's hand brushed hers, and Tanya felt a rush of desire she thought she'd lost forever. When he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't pull away. In that choice, she welcomed a shadow into her heart, believing it would bring light. But shadows do not love the light, they consume it. As summer slipped toward autumn, Malik found himself caught in two passionate relationships, each offering something the other could not. With Serena, there was depth and intellectual connection, hours of talking about art, dreams, and life, woven between moments of stolen heat. Under his praise, Serena's creativity bloomed again, and she threw herself into painting with new fire. Tanya, on the other hand, gave Malik a comfort he had long craved. With her, the laughter came easily, and the air felt safe. She grew bolder, her confidence mending under his attention, her career gaining new life. Malik told himself he was helping both women heal, that he was giving them happiness. But lies dressed as kindness are still lies, and every false step leaves a print that leads back to the truth. He balanced their affections with a precision born of necessity, his job and invented study groups serving as cover. Serena reveled in the thrill of secrecy, pouring her awakened passion into canvases that pulsed with color and longing. Leonard noticed her new energy, attributing it to a fitness routine she had claimed to start. Tanya, too, transformed, her wardrobe shifting to brighter tones, her friends remarking on her glow, assuming she had moved on from her divorce. Yet as weeks became months, both women's feelings deepened. Serena began to picture leaving her husband, imagining a future where her art and Malik were her whole world. Tanya, cautious after past heartbreak, still found herself dreaming of starting fresh with someone who truly valued her. Malik could not choose between them, caring for each in different ways. But the strain of his double life crept in, his easy charm edged with tension, his laughter dimming. Anxiety became his shadow, guilt gnawed at the edges of his sleep. There were moments that nearly exposed him. Walking hand in hand with Tanya through the park one afternoon, Malik spotted Serena in the distance. He steered Tanya quickly away, inventing a sudden craving for ice cream. Another time, he was helping Serena carry groceries when Tanya's car rolled by. Dropping behind Serena's vehicle, he fumbled with a shoelace that didn't need tying, praying Tanya hadn't seen. Every lie stitched into a life is a weak seam, and weak seams always tear when pulled. As both women wanted more of his time, Malik found himself making impossible promises, agreeing to holiday plans with each, knowing he could never keep both.
If you're enjoying this video, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. Share and like this video. It's free and won't cost anything, but it helps and encourages us to grow and do more. Thank you for your kindness, and back to the video.
He lost weight, his nights plagued by restless dreams, and he checked his phone like a man expecting a blow. He knew something had to end, but could not bring himself to cut away either woman. What he did not see was that the women, once blinded by affection, were beginning to sense the shadows between his words. The balance he had built was already crumbling. It collapsed on a crisp November evening at Briarwood's annual Harvest Festival. The town square was alive with lights, music, and the smell of roasted corn. Malik debated whether to attend, knowing both Serena and Tanya would be there. In the end, he decided absence might speak louder than his presence. Moving through the crowd, he nodded to neighbors, scanning constantly. Then disaster moved toward him from both sides. Serena, volunteering at the face-painting booth, waved him over. As he stepped closer, he saw Tanya at a nearby table arranging items for the silent auction. In slow motion, the two women turned toward each other, both walking to him. Serena reached him first, greeting him with a hug that lingered just a second too long. As she pulled away, Tanya stepped up. The air thickened as the women's eyes measured each other. Serena extended her hand, smiling politely, but her fingers rested on Malik's arm with familiarity. Tanya noticed. They traded small talk sharpened with hints, each story meant to claim him, each smile edged with suspicion. Malik's silence became its own confession. Then Serena spoke of a bracelet she had given him, a one-of-a-kind piece, now glinting on his wrist. Tanya's face hardened. Serena's eyes welled with betrayal. Without another word, they walked away from him in opposite directions. Trust, once fractured, cannot be mended by silence. It bleeds out into the open until nothing remains. That night, whispers spread through the festival like wind through dry grass. Malik fled home, pacing his room, alternating between frantic calls to both women and moments of collapsed despair. The next morning, Serena appeared at his door, eyes swollen, her voice quiet but cut deep. She spoke of lies, of trust broken, of love that had been an illusion. When she left, Malik knew the break was final. Tanya refused all contact, sending instead a single email that stripped away his justifications with cold precision. She told him never to reach out again. Within days, the story was everywhere in Briarwood. Neighbors who had once greeted Malik with warmth now stared or turned away. His shifts at the cafe were endured under the weight of stares and murmurs. Then came the knock at his door, a week after the festival. Dr. Leonard Holt stood there, trembling with fury, the truth of his wife's affairs spilling between clenched words. Some wounds to pride strike deeper than any blade, and Leonard's had been cut in full view of the town. In the weeks after the Harvest Festival, Serena and Tanya, once cordial neighbors, avoided each other entirely. Their shared humiliation simmered into something sharper, an unspoken feud that hung in the air between their homes. Serena's life unraveled. Leonard swung between cold silence and heated arguments, their voices now carrying out into the street for neighbors to overhear. She retreated into her studio, painting dark, chaotic canvases that seemed to bleed her grief and anger onto the walls. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Tanya, in contrast, pulled inward. She stopped attending gatherings, turned down client meetings, and worked from home to avoid the lingering glances of the community. The confidence she had been rebuilding crumbled, and her design work suffered. Both women's pain began to twist into blame. They stopped seeing Malik as the root of their heartbreak and started seeing each other as the enemy. One afternoon, fate, or perhaps misfortune, brought them face to face in the produce aisle of the Briarwood market. Their carts bumped with a dull thud. A forced apology quickly gave way to biting words. Tanya accused Serena of using Malik to escape her empty marriage. Serena countered with a barb about Tanya's desperation making her easy prey. Their voices rose, drawing eyes until a store manager stepped in. Some rifts deepen in silence, others sharpen in the open, each word a fresh cut that leaves the soul raw. The argument marked a turning point. Their feud spilled into public gossip, neighbors choosing sides, whispers filling church pews and front porches. Malik faded into the background, leaving his house only for work, head down, moving quickly through streets that no longer felt safe. But even as he tried to disappear, the tension he had ignited was winding tighter, ready to snap. The morning of November 17th was gray and cold. the kind of morning where the world seems to hold its breath. Tanya sat at her desk, staring at a half-finished design on her computer, her mind drifting to Malik and Serena. In a moment of weakness, she typed a short email to Malik asking to meet for closure. She hit send before doubt could stop her. Serena, who had taken to checking Malik's email, his password unchanged, saw the message appear in his inbox. Something inside her fractured. The thought of them together again, moving on without her, was more than she could bear. She walked into Leonard's study, her movements slow and deliberate, and opened the drawer where he kept a handgun from years back when break-ins had rattled the neighborhood. Its cold weight sat heavy in her palm. Violence is a choice born in darkness, a final surrender to the storm within, a choice that, once made, cannot be unmade. Tanya, unaware, decided to clear her mind with a walk. She stepped into the chill air, her thoughts still tangled with Malik's name. She didn't notice Serena until the woman was in front of her, eyes blazing with pain. Words spilled between them, accusations, denials, raw grief sharpened into rage. Neighbors later recalled hearing raised voices, the quick escalation. Tanya lifted her hands in a calming gesture, but Serena's hand went to her coat pocket. The gun appeared, and in that instant, Tanya moved, perhaps to push it away, perhaps to flee. The sound of the shot cracked the still morning. Tanya collapsed, a dark bloom spreading on her chest. Serena stood frozen, the weapon slipping from her fingers, clattering against the sidewalk. A heartbeat later, the quiet exploded into chaos, shouts, running feet, the distant wail of sirens. No matter the reason given in the heat of the moment, blood spilled by one hand upon another stains the soul in a way that time will never wash clean. Paramedics arrived, but it was too late. Tanya Merrick's life ended there on that cold street, her dreams and pain alike silenced in an instant. Serena didn't resist as police led her away, her face blank, the weight of what she had done sinking in with each step toward the waiting cruiser. The investigation moved quickly. Witnesses had seen and heard the confrontation, and Serena's surrender left little room for doubt. Still, detectives sifted through the tangled web of affairs, jealousy, and fractured lives that had led to that November morning. Leonard Holt faced his own quiet devastation, the humiliation of betrayal mixed with the horror of his wife's crime. He withdrew from public life, taking a leave from the hospital where he had been respected for years. Tanya's family arrived from out of state, their grief raw, their questions unanswered, except by the stark facts of the case. The weapon was traced to Leonard, its improper storage raising legal questions that deepened the wound. At the trial 6 months later, the prosecution painted Serena as driven by jealousy and rage, her decision to take the gun as proof of premeditation. The defense countered with a portrait of a woman undone by years of neglect, betrayal, and mounting emotional strain. Malik's testimony laid bare the details of both affairs, his words offering the jury a map through the chaos but also pulling every wound back into the open. After deliberation, the jury found Serena guilty of second-degree murder, a lesser charge than sought. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with parole possible after 12. In Briarwood, the streets never felt the same again. Neighbors who once waved from porches now carried the memory of flashing lights and sirens, of how quickly the facade of peace can fall. Love is meant to heal, not destroy. Yet when it turns to obsession, it blinds the heart to reason and drives the mind to dark places where tragedy waits. No one wins in such moments. Families break, futures vanish, and communities carry scars that may never fade. If you ever find yourself in a place of betrayal, heartbreak, or dangerous anger, walk away. Seek counsel from those who can help: friends, family, community leaders, or professional guidance. Pain shared with the right people can be mended. Pain acted upon in violence can only multiply. Let this be a reminder that strength lies in restraint, and hope is never found down the path of revenge. This is True Crime's Altar, where every sin is punished, every betrayal has a cost, and every soul must answer to the truth. Share your thoughts and feelings about it in the comments. We read every one. Tell us where in the world you're joining from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more stories like this. Your voice matters, and your presence here helps us keep these lessons alive.